Hello, and thank you for joining us. President Trump is kicking off the second leg of his Middle East visit in Qatar. The president met Wednesday with Qatari leaders and signed a series of agreements that the White House is characterizing as a, quote, economic exchange worth $1.2 trillion. President Trump spoke about the growing relationship with Qatar during a state dinner in Doha.
As president, I'm proud that our growing friendship is blossoming into a full-fledged economic and security partnership, as we've seen clearly on this trip. Because we're setting records on this trip, we're bringing a lot of investment back into the United States of America.
Earlier Wednesday, President Trump met with the interim president of Syria, whose rebel forces took control of the country after the fall of former dictator Bashar al-Assad. The meeting comes one day after President Trump said he would lift all U.S. sanctions on Syria to give the new leadership, quote, a chance at greatness. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez has more from Doha.
Here in Doha, the president was the guest of honor this evening at a state dinner at Lusail Palace, the Qatari equivalent of the White House. And it capped a day of discussions about Qatari investment in U.S. companies. This is a small but very wealthy country, oil rich, and the Emir of Qatar announced purchases from U.S. companies today worth tens, if not hundreds, of billions of dollars. Most notably, the purchase of at least 160 jets from Boeing. But he also announced the purchase of drones, industrial technology. This is a small but quickly growing country, and they have a lot of needs that they believe can be served with purchases from the United States. Here in Qatar, as in Saudi Arabia, President Trump got a hero's welcome. He was greeted by camels and Arabian horses and cyber trucks and sword dancers as he made his way through the city of Doha. He is the first American president to pay an official visit to this country, and he and his family have significant investments here in Qatar. They just cut a new deal for a luxury golf course a couple of weeks ago.
Nancy Cortez, thank you. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now. So let's start with Qatar. How has President Trump's relationship with the country evolved from his first term in office?
Well, Lindsay, it's good to be with you. The relationship with Qatar looks very different from Trump's first time in office, He has a long history with this government. Back in 2017, when he first became president, his relationship with them was sort of tense. Of everyone in the region, they certainly were the least close with Trump. Several times on Truth Social, or Twitter then at the time, I guess, he called them out for harboring terrorists and asked them to make a stronger be stronger, rather, in combating terrorism and harboring terrorism within their own state. Obviously, now the relationship is very different than what it was back then. Throughout Trump's first administration, the Qatari government had offered, billions of dollars in investments in the United States, and now this appears to be paying off. Their emir visited Trump last fall during the campaign season at his home in Mar-a-Lago. They have forged a bit of a friendship, more of a relationship there, and now we're seeing not only are they agreeing to buy U.S. products such as Boeing and Reaper drones and defense systems for unmanned drones, but Trump is also being perhaps gifted a $400 million plane from their government. So quite a notable difference in where their relationship stood in 2017 to where it is now.
Let's turn to Syria. What did President Trump make of the Syrian interim president? What's the significance of their meeting?
Certainly an interesting meeting this morning between the two of them. Trump called the new leader of Syria a young, attractive guy, a tough guy with a strong past. Of course, al-Shura, who's the new leader, was formerly a member of al-Qaeda in Syria, once considered a leader of the al-Qaeda cell in Syria, and of course was part in that influential group that overthrew the leader of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. Now Trump seems to be resetting the relationship between the United States and Syria. He met with him this morning at the request of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman when he was in Saudi. And when they had that meeting, Trump spoke to him not only about eventually signing the Abraham Accords with Israel, normalizing relationships between those two countries, which have a very long and torrid history, but also helping maintain peace in the region by also preventing the resurgence of ISIS, taking control of ISIS prisons that are in northeast Syria, and said that relationship is open to evolving not only through national security purposes, but also economic purposes with investments in oil and natural gas in Syria. So quite a notable meeting that morning. We'll have to see how this relationship particularly evolves over the next several years of the Trump administration.
I also want to look ahead to talks in Turkey on Thursday. Ukrainian and Russian officials will hold peace talks there. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not on the list of officials expected to attend. We know Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be there. Is the door open for President Trump to make an appearance, and how much can get done if Putin doesn't show?
Well, now that Putin is not showing, the president essentially said earlier today on his plane that Putin would like him to go, but, you know, he has a very packed schedule tomorrow. He's headed to the United Arab Emirates for his final day of this trip, so it's unlikely that we could see the president head to Turkey, but never say never. It's possible he might still go. But as far as how the talks could evolve without Putin there, it'll be interesting to see how Ukrainian President Zelensky navigates these high-level talks with Russian officials. This was supposed to be the first major sit-down between the two leaders to really discuss the end to the war since Trump became in office. So a lot of questions about what tomorrow will actually look like, whether or not there will be deliverables, and what this means for the U.S. relationship with Russia, as there has been ongoing negotiations with Steve Witkoff, the president's envoy in Russia, trying to get him to the table. And at this point, it seems like he's unwilling. Lindsay?
Olivia, Rinaldi, thank you so much.